Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here today. I turned the piano hoping that everybody over there could see me too, but it looks like maybe I'm missing a couple. We're going to start with our welcoming song, Gather Us In. So I think that you have the words to this one. I'd love to have you sing along, please.
Supporting some friends at a wedding. So we've got a great and perfect team, and we're grateful that you are here as well. My name is Dr. David Goldberg, and it's a joy to be with you. Whether you're joining us in person or online, thank you for making time to be a part of and contribute to this beloved spiritual community. As you hear us say every week, we are a radically inclusive community, and for us what that means is we honor all people, all races, all relational orientations and gender identities. So whoever you are, whatever you have done or not done, wherever you are on your path, you belong here, and it's a joy to be with you. Just a couple of announcements today. I wanted to remind you that we have our Enneagram workshop starting next Saturday. It's going to be next Saturday and the following Saturday from 10 to 12 with Linda Frazee. Linda is an Enneagram expert. She is a spiritual being. She happens to be the mother of Reverend Dr. Michelle Madrano, the spiritual leader at Mile High Church. And so we're very excited to have Linda with us to explore the beauty and the power and the mysticism that is the Enneagram. is $59, and that includes both weekends. And for those of you who are a little more social, if you want to pull together a group of people and go out to lunch afterward, I think that would be perfect. So please sign up for that. Bobby is here. She can help you with further information, as can I. We also are asking you, our congregants, our beloved community, to support, and I'll get to this within just 1 second, to support our chaplains as they move into a space of retreat at the end of October. They are spearheading, there we are, thank you. They are spearheading an effort to bring together all of the chaplains, all of the Unity chaplains across the Front Range, to come together for a day of prayer, a day of education, a time of connection in community. So all that we ask is that you please add our beloved chaplains to your prayer list as they continue to do so much to support our community. I believe that it's October 28th at the Mother Cabrini Shrine in Evergreen. So beautiful time, beautiful place, beautiful space. And now I would share with you our ongoing support of the amazing program that is Colorado Feeding Kids. Our next meal pack is going to be on September 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Fern Warehouse. And for those of you who have been in our community for a bit, you know that Scott Smith is doing an excellent job as the servant leader of that community. Lori continues to serve that community and our community as a chaplain, and it's our joy to continue to connect with them. So join us, if you will, in this social action as we prepare and provide food for some giant souls with short legs who perhaps otherwise may not be able to eat. That's something that we do from the bottom of our hearts, and whether you've done it once or nonce or lots, they can always use our help, and we're most grateful for that. But most of all, my friends, thank you for being with us on this day. Happy Labor Day. We support all those who work in any capacity, all those who have worked, and all those who serve. Blessings.
You all to just get comfortable in your seats and share a little meditation and prayer for us today. So if you would all just open your minds to the truth, seeking what's in your heart, letting the light in, and drinking in that light, and remembering your divine nature. I live in a place of endless abundance in this universe. We need only to turn to nature to encounter the variety of God's bounty all around us as we're in this special part of summer, Indian summer. We all notice the flowers and all the bounty of vegetables that come this time of year. We experience the sun and the cool evenings, and the crickets singing at night, and the water that flows. These are all signs of abundance. Everywhere in this world, there is abundance. Looking within, we find still more abundance when we become aware of the endless possibilities that are in our lives. Our potential is limitless. Our knowledge of these good things in our lives sink deep into us right now. Just think about some of the things that have already come in abundance this morning. We remember abundant ways in which we can grow and learn and serve and help. We keep our minds open for abundance this morning. And we celebrate God, divine, Mother, Father, God, our goodness, our truth, our true nature. To know the truth, to know that I am aware that I am part of the divine. And I jump for joy being here today in this community. And so it is.
And please join us, my friends, in reading our statement of faith. There is only one power and one presence in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, and I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care if they call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams, it's all it's gonna take. 1,000,000 dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Everyone inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong, but let me bring me along to the world you see, to a world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see. Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. For the world we're gonna make.
Thank you, Kent. And this, my friends, is exactly why I love doing what I'm doing. These are the beings that I get to work with all week in creating the perfect service for you. If you sense the theme with Heidi inviting us into just recognize the abundance that you've already experienced today, with Kent inviting us into the million dreams to establish and co-create the world that we want to create. I say yes, and I say yes to abundance. And so, what a beautiful time to step into the art of abundance. As we shared with you, Reverend Doris and I are going to be speaking about this for the next 5 weeks. It's the art of abundance, 10 rules for a prosperous life. Now, if you're like me, you hear the word rules, and you kind of recoil just a little bit, although my beloved happens to be a great rule follower. I love him just the same. And Dennis happens to be a good friend of mine. I've actually published one of his many books. And so on Monday of this past week, Reverend Doris and I had a Zoom call with Dennis, and we said, we're engaging in your book. We're going to jump into your book. What would you recommend? And he said, you know that better than I do. What is speaking to you? What do you want to talk about? So we had a great conversation with Dennis. And what I know of prosperity and abundance is one of the last times we were in St. Pete Beach, Florida. Dennis and his lovely wife Diane invited us to their home on the water, on one of the waterways that leads into the Gulf of Mexico. Beautiful home, right on the water, had their boat, had their boat lift. Clearly I'm a Colorado kid. And that was a beautiful experience of prosperity and abundance for me. And that is one of the things we wanted to share with you. And also, I just happen to love this cover. I don't know if you can see it from where you're at, but it's just a simple bowl overflowing with cherries, right? So we can have the cherry on top if we choose. And my human self goes back to a different writer in a different day by the name of Irma Bombeck, who wrote another great book called If Life is a Bowl of Cherries, Why Am I Always in the Pits? But that's a conversation for a different day. So thank you to those of you who have been in conversation, and perhaps we spent some time together on social media. I am overjoyed to be able to support people in the rituals of life. And in the month of August, I was fortunate enough to be able to facilitate 7 weddings and 2 memorials, in addition to the wonderful work we get to do here at UOTA. And just this past weekend, I did a wedding in Littleton at an event space that was carved out for weddings. This place was built specifically to host weddings. Soup to nuts, everything was magnificent. Yesterday, I did another wedding in Kingsburg, Colorado, right across literally across the road from the Wild Animal Sanctuary. It's an hour drive, a beautiful drive on what day was that? Saturday afternoon. We go pulling up. Rick is like, there are camels in that field. I said, yes, there are. So you turn right to go into the Wild Animal Sanctuary, and you turn left to go to this reception. And it was lovely, and it was beautiful, and it was a reception in a barn. And as I was reflecting on this, I thought, isn't that great that people get to define what works for them? We get to define what prosperity means. We get to define what abundance means. And these couples, these young beloveds, get to define what beauty and perfection and abundance and prosperity means in their lives. And as I was thinking about that, once again, being a kid of a certain age, I got to the song Green Acres. Anybody remember that show with Eddie Albert and Ava Gabor? For a long time I thought it was Zsa Zsa, but no, it was her sister Ava. And you know what, that went something like, Green Acres is the place to be, farming is the life for me, land spreading out so far and wide, keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside. So that's Eddie Albert sharing his view of prosperity and abundance, right? Land spreading out so far and wide. You can have the island of Manhattan. I just want the countryside. And as I was reflecting again on these weddings, we were at a wedding Friday night. A lot of the guests happened to be from Nebraska. And Rick and I were sitting at a table, and these folks were literally having a conversation about being neighbors and not knowing they were neighbors. Well, where do you live with regard to this one building or this one iconic place? And they said, oh, we're 3 cornfields down on the right. And this other family said, we're 2 cornfields down on the left. And they're neighbors, and they are so far apart because of the beautiful countryside and all the space, they didn't even know it, right? So then we get into the second part of the show, which is the Ava Gabor character, and she says, New York is where I'd rather stay. I get allergic smelling hay. I just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue. Something to be said for clarity. You can have your green acres, you can have the outdoors, you can have farm chores. I like Manhattan, I'm gonna hang out here. And then they go back and forth a little bit. He says, the chores. She says, the stores. He says, fresh air. She says, Times Square. And then we get into a little bit of patriarchy from the 60s. You are my wife. Goodbye, city life. Green Acres, we are there. So they are stepping into a joint vision, a shared vision of prosperity and abundance. And so again, what we heard in Heidi's prayer, what we heard in Kent's song, is that there's no bad when we're talking about that. You know, maybe for our little ones, it means, oh my goodness, Halloween is coming and I get lots of candy. And maybe for us, again, being of a certain age, we get to start thinking about Social Security and retirement and what that looks like, and how we can continue to be prosperous and abundant in that world. So one of the things that I so appreciate in this book by Dennis is that he does indeed give us these 10 rules for a prosperous life. And before we get there, he's really clear to explain what he understands to be the difference between prosperity and abundance. That we use them as synonyms. And you've noticed even in my talk today, they kind of always run together, prosperity and abundance and prosperity. And Dennis says, with respect, no. They are 2 different things. Abundance is the spiritual principle. Abundance says, I know that I am open to all the good that there is. And that's not from a place of need. That's not from a place of greediness. That's simply from a place of being a human being on the planet. You are open to all the abundance if you choose to be. So abundance is the spiritual principle. And I would suggest it's a little bit like gravity. We can have people say, well, I'm not prosperous, or I'm not abundant, I'm unlucky, and I've always been unlucky, and this is what my family does. And we can continue to argue for our limitations, or we can say, abundance is my birthright. I am open to all of the forms of abundance that are coming my way. So Dennis says that abundance is the spiritual principle, and that prosperity is the outpicturing. So we need to be with that and try that on for a bit. And for those of you who have been in spiritual community, perhaps for a while, you'll recognize that abundance, or that recognition of awareness, is the first step in our prayer treatments or in our prayers. That we recognize the ubiquitous presence of the divine, whatever we choose to call her or him or it. We say that one power, that one presence is in, around, and through it all. So it is that recognition that is the first step of prayer. And I wanted to read you a quote by Charles Fillmore in that regard. Charles writes, "Realization means at one month," or you might pronounce that atonement. Realization means at one moment, completion, perfection, wholeness, repose, resting in God. As you hear that, that doesn't mean we have to go out and do anything. That we just get to be and rest in God. So just as I love weddings, I love celebrating joy, whether it's these 20-somethings who are so much in love, whether it is, I did a wedding for a 70-year-old dear friend of mine several years ago. She was getting married for the 5th time. I said, "Jillian, I adore you, and you are the eternal optimist." I love doing that. And I also love supporting families in memorials and celebrations of life and funerals, however they choose to define them. And one of the popular readings at all of those events, whatever the family's religious or spiritual or secular preferences, many like to hear the 23rd Psalm. What that tells us is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Now I share that with you, my friends, because that is the same invitation for us in a different context, but the invitation is in there for us to step into those items that we're talking about. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. The Lord is inviting us to rest. It's okay. And on this Labor Day, how good it is that we honor another day of rest for all of our labors. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. The invitation is into that place of stillness. And I include that in a different context in many of my wedding ceremonies. I invite the couple and all of the joy and all of the energy and all of the love of the day. Take a moment in the silence, because that is when we can truly listen to the divine. So that speaks to me. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. I am directed. I am guided. All I have to do is listen, and I will be directed. And while I'm going through the valley of the shadow of death, while I'm going through less than positive times perhaps, I will fear no evil. I'm not afraid of evil, because evil is my interpretation, right? For thou art with me. I know that the one power, the one presence is always with me. It can simply be no other way. So I'm reminded of another story then that took place in the depths of the African jungle. A traveler was making a long trip and had engaged native porters to help him along the way to carry everything that was needed for the journey. And the first day, they marched rapidly and they swashbuckled and they made their way along, and the traveler was very pleased with their motion and with what they were doing, and they were on schedule and so on and so forth. And the next day he woke up and he was ready to go, and all of the porters, all of the people who he engaged to be helpers, were simply being. And they were resting and they were sleeping and they were sitting in circles and they were being with each other. And he was clueless. He had no idea what was going on here. And he finally engaged a spokesperson for the porters, and he said, "What is happening here?" And he said, he was told, "We moved so fast and so quickly yesterday, we need to take a moment and allow our souls time to catch up with us." That really speaks to me. Rather than trying harder, what if we were to try softer? I love that meditative piece that says, I have so much to do today, I am so busy, I need to meditate twice as long. So, how counterintuitive is that if we chose to do that? I do think it's our natural disposition to be in motion, to move, to not want to rest. We've tried to condition ourselves to get by on 3 hours sleep, on 6 hours sleep, on whatever that looks like for you. When you say that, you know it's not enough. Your intuition knows that. And I would just invite you to consider that sleep is as necessary as your spiritual practice. So think about that and step into that. Every day in the U.S., it's taking a physical toll on us when we're talking about the physical dimension of worry and lack of rest. 30 to 40-year-olds are bearing the brunt of insomnia. 60-year-olds, more than half of us, deal with insomnia on some level, not being able to rest, not being able to sleep. It costs the U.S. economy about $70 billion a year in lost productivity because I don't have time to take my vacation. So there's a reason why we need that and why we want that. And every day in the U.S., we sell 30 tons of aspirin and sleeping pills and tranquilizers to help us slow down, to help us be in that state. And what I would recommend, my friends, this doctor would recommend reading the 23rd Psalm 5 days a week and talk to me five times a day, and talk to me next Sunday, and let's see how you're doing. And there was a man who even tried to hire somebody else to do his worrying for him. He was going to pay this fellow $200,000 a year to do his worrying for him. And the fellow who was being employed as said official worrier asked, "Where are you going to get the money to pay me to do this? If you're paying me $200,000, what do you have to make?" To which the person who was delegating his worrying said, "That's your first worry." So worrying is praying for what we don't want. Whenever we get wrapped up in that, well, this is going to happen, and they're going to do this, and that's not, and we get into our monkey mind. We get into worrying. We get into repeating the affirmation. We are calling in exactly what we don't want. So I invite you into that place of conscious correction, or you get to say, no, let's try that over. Okay, David, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I'm calling in, right? So that is the beauty and the grace. And as part of that, then, take the time to go within. Take that moment. And I offer Reverend Doris's love to all of you. She is on a retreat this weekend. She's on a women's retreat at the Sunrise Ranch. So we bless her in her time of rejuvenation and reconnection as well. And that, my friends, is leading by example. So I invite you into that space of doing what you need to do to support yourself. Dennis's second rule then is to be aware that we live in an expanding universe. Whenever we're feeling contraction, whenever we're feeling constricted, as spiritual beings, we get to know that that's not the truth of who we are. We get to say, wait, this is my ego somewhere, somehow trying to protect me, trying to say, don't step into this, you might get hurt. Gotta step away from that. You know what happened the last time we did that. Don't do something new. What if they won't? We might. Shut it down, my friends. You have the power to do that. You know at the core of your being that we live in this expansive universe, right? So it's not about if I get more, fill in your own blank. If I get more money, if I get a better house, if I get a better job, if I get more education, if I do something else, you're not taking anything away from me. If something good happens for you, that doesn't mean that I'm getting less. We are in a continually productive and positive and building universe. So when something happens good in our Unity on the Avenue community, that's not to the detriment of somebody else. You see, that is why it serves us to be in support of the good. If somebody gets a new job, that's awesome. That's not taking money out of my pocket. If somebody falls in love, that's tremendous. That doesn't mean that there's less love for me. So, rather than being in that place of they're doing better, therefore I must be doing worse, therefore I'm going to respond humanly and negatively, no. Russell Wilson just signed a 5-year, $250 million contract with the Denver Broncos. He's getting paid $50 million a year to play football. And I could be in that space of, well, think of the social justice we could do. Well, think of the kids we could feed. Well, think of the schools we could open. Well, think of the poverty. Yes, all of that is true. And I still get to do that work. And Russell gets to do his work. So when he's pulling in $50 million a year, that's no skin off my nose. I don't have to be mad at him. I don't have to wallow in the bloated nothingness of my humanity. I get to say, you go, dude, you're awesome. You're out there earning whatever you are earning. You are stimulating the economy. P.S., when what I would call Mile High Stadium has their 8 or 10 games a year, that earns as much money as all of the seats in our performing arts district. So if somebody else wants to support football and I want to support the performing arts, I say yes and yes. I don't have to hate anything to love whatever I choose to love. Does that make sense? Are you with me?
Yes.
So rather than, well, professional athletes shouldn't be paid or teachers should be paid more, or all of that can be true. And let us support the good without demeaning anyone or anything to make them bad or wrong. So that was, again, back to my pretty weak Green Acres analogy. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside. You can have the island of Manhattan. I just want the countryside, right? And that's what made me smile. Rick and I shared with you before, had the opportunity to go to Dinosaur Ridge. Some friends took us there for our birthday. And if you haven't been there, you can see it from 470 in Alameda, and it's awesome. And forgive me if I shared this part of the story, but a friend was relaying the story from being on the adventure with a child, and they saw all the dinosaur prints and all the different explanations, and this was this kind of dinosaur, and this was this kind of bird, and this was this kind of reptile, and we all used to be underwater, and you can see the water marks on all the rocks. And this little person turned around and said, "I'm really surprised that the dinosaurs got that close to the highway." It's all about perspective. So this little one probably didn't have a good sense of what he had for dinner last night, let alone what happened 200 million years ago. And we invited him into the conversation. We said, "This is what's happening. Let's talk, let's explore, let's go do this." And the second step in the prayer process then, the first step is recognition, the oneness, the ubiquitous presence of the divine. The second step in prayer is unification. It is knowing that I am one with that one. So if any of you have had that experience of having some training and or praying with a minister and or praying with one of our extraordinary chaplains, you might notice a similarity when you hear them starting off by saying something to the effect of, "I know that there is only one power and one presence in the universe, God the divine, Jesus, Buddha, Yahweh," however they might identify that one presence. And then the next phrase might be something like, "And I know that I am one with that power," right? We are unifying ourselves with the divine, because I don't know a whole lot. And what I do know in my spiritual core is that the one power, the one presence who created me continues to live in me and dwell in me. So, and I'm also very clear who the junior partner is. So I am co-creating my life with the divine, and God is all of me, and I am a part of God, you see. And that's exactly the first two steps that Dennis is talking about in his book. And speaking of prayer, that is the commitment that I made when I stepped into ministry, that A, I love to pray, and B, I will pray with anybody, anytime, anywhere. So whatever that looks like, however that unfolds, sometimes people ask me, and I'm honored to help them in that moment. Sometimes I ask folks. I had a meeting with a longtime friend. We've been friends since we were this high this week, and she was heading in for her 5th and final radiation treatment after having a mastectomy. And she identifies as a lifelong Catholic. And she knows how my thoughts and beliefs as a minister in New Thought. And I said, "Teresa, what do you need from me?" And she said, "Oh, nothing." And she's a mom, and she's a grandma, and she was chair of the National PTA, and she's very busy and very engaged and very involved. And I said, "Teresa, what do you need from me?" And she said, "No, David, really, I don't need anything." You know, she had her coffee, and she's ready to book her appointment, and she's going to check it off the list and be on to the next thing. And I said, "Okay, darling, and I love you, and I love your heart, and I hope you know where this is coming from. I know that you are a caregiver. And what I know to be true is if you really value caregiving, you have to give me the chance to care for you. So I know you're a giver. I know that you don't like being taken care of. I know that you're independent. I know that you can do it for yourself. What can I do for you?" I said, and maybe the answer is pick up some mayonnaise the next time you come over. And maybe the answer is please continue to hold me in prayer. And the third time around, she got it. She said, "Will you please just hold me in prayer? I have to be here for my 3 new grandbabies." And I said, "Thank you. Thank you for letting me support you." And again, for the folks that I'm friends with on social media, I posted that a beloved friend and mentor, Reverend Lloyd Barrett, his wife Shekinah made her transition on August 20th. And her service was yesterday in Las Vegas. And had we not had a weekend of wedding commitments and my talk today, we would have been in Vegas. I would have been at the service, and Rick would have been in the casino. And we both realized that God is in, around, and through it all. But what I wanted to share with you, my point in bringing up Dr. Boyd, is he was one of my first teachers. And he was born in Jamaica, and he has this glorious, booming baritone voice. And whenever I would step into the classroom or the chapel, or wherever Dr. Lloyd was, he was so magnificent in recognizing people when he said, "Good morning, King David." And I'm like, I think I need that t-shirt. So that was Dr. Lloyd and his presence in my life. And he is in his mid-80s, and his ministry now is by text message. And he sends out a text every day with some of his brilliant and creative prayers. And I wanted to share with you a couple of his text messages from this past week after losing his wife of so many years. His first one was, "Mighty currents of love from family and friends have been turning grief into grace, pain into purpose, and loss into love. This aligns with a favorite quote of Shekinah's, 'I am doing a new thing.'" So we may or may not know what's coming next, and he's choosing to look at it as doing a new thing. And the next day, "I am now believing that I am receiving relief from my grieving and that inspiration is infusing the situation. At this time, this is no rhyme. It is a design from the divine. Blessings." Still choosing to ministry in and through his own grief so beautifully and so powerfully. And so that is what we get to do, my friends. We get to hold the opposites, or those perceived opposites in our lives. We get to continue to show up for people. I can't tell you how many people reached out to Rick and me and said, "Happy birthday," from families that I just did a memorial for families who just buried a child or an infant, for people who have so much going on in their own lives, and yet they chose to reach out and honor us. And I know that each of you does that every day in your own way. And I say, good for you. I say, do it in your own time, do it in your own space, and allow it to flow. I was having a conversation with a friend about how long grief takes. And I said, I wish I had an answer to that question. I know people who have gone through memorials of loved ones, and at the end of the memorial, they were complete with the experience and they were ready to move on. And I know my own grief with my mom, who was my best friend, and however many decades that took me. And it took me a long time to get over that. And I offer that by way of saying to you, grief isn't linear. Very little of the work that we do is linear. So if you feel like your grief is taking you too long to get over your mom, or if you feel like you didn't grieve your grandpa long enough, let it go. You did exactly what was right for you. And that is good, and that is strong, and that is extraordinarily powerful. So if you would, my friends, on this Labor Day, I have one task for you. Repeat after me, please. I am divine.
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 That is the truth of what I know. Would you join me in prayer, please? I love that we have such a wide and broad definition of prosperity, of a wide and broad definition of abundance. That yes, we are talking about money. It is what we use on the planet, and it is good for all of us. And yes, we're talking about food and shelter and connection and relationship and community. And what I know to be true is that we get to claim our abundance in every aspect of our lives. So wherever blockages might exist, Wherever I am living in not enoughness, I release that back to the nothingness from which that came. I know for each being within the sound of my voice that they are poised, purposeful, and powerful, and standing in their presence. That they get to be in that place of deep knowing, of deep connection to their own experience and interpretation of the divine, co-creating a life of their dreams. It is one life. It is right here and right now. Why are we not running with our heads on fire in the direction of our dreams? So I bless all of us in this experience of abundance and in prosperity. I am blessed in Miss Merritt Jones, who captured this material so beautifully for us. I bless the leadership of this community, continuing to step into and redefining what abundance and prosperity looks like vis-a-vis this extraordinary Unity on the Avenue community. I call it good. I call it very good. I call it divinely inspired and divinely appointed. And I simply say yes on our behalf to all that is ours to do, to all that is ours to be. I release, I let go, I allow it to be. We anchor this together by saying, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are.
The next song is This is a Day of New Beginnings. I think you all have a copy of that if you'd like to sing along. This is a day of new beginnings, time to remember and move on, time to believe what love is bringing, laying to rest the pain that's gone. For by the life and death of Jesus, God's mighty Spirit now as then can make for us a world of difference as faith and hope are born again. Then let us with the Spirit's daring step from the past and leave behind our disappointment, guilt and grieving, seeking new paths and sure to find. Christ is alive and goes before us to show and share what love can do. This is a day of new beginnings. Our God is making all things new.
And that is what we know to be true, my friends, that every day is a new opportunity to share our light, a new opportunity to share our joy, and a new opportunity to show our love. And now is that moment when we have the opportunity to spread that love in all of its forms. However you choose to give to Unity on the Avenue, whether you are offering your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever that looks like, please know that we see you, we value you, and we honor your gifts. We have many ways that you can give. We are passing the plate again in the sanctuary, and we're most grateful to Opal and our entire usher team. You can mail us a check. You can do any number of other things. And please know, again, however you choose to contribute, you are blessed. And if you would join me in blessing the gifts, tithes, and offerings. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Crazy world, full of crazy contradictions, like a child. First you drive me wild, and then you win my heart with your wicked art. Unminute, tender, gentle, then temperamental as a summer storm. Just when I believed your heart's getting warmer, you're cold and you're cruel, and I, like a fool, try to cope, try to hang on to hope. Crazy world, every day's the same old roller coaster ride. But I've got my pride, I won't give in. And even though I know I'll never win, oh, how I love this crazy world. Just when I believed your heart's getting warmer, you're cold and you're cruel, and I, like a fool, try to cope, try to hang on to hope. Crazy world, every day's the same old roller coaster ride. But I've got my pride, I won't give in. And even though I know I'll never win, oh, how I love this crazy
How's it going, guys? What did you talk about with Miss Hussein today? The animals as well. We love that. We covered a lot of ground today. From Adam and Eve to all the animals. Dang, Miss Hussein rocks. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So now we'd like to offer you a blessing as the young people in our community and for the young people of the world. Please, my friends, rub your hands together. Let's get the energy flowing. And you are loved, special, and important. We see you in blessed divine being that you are. Thank you, guys. So glad to have you here. So just one reminder then as we move into our prayer for protection about the Enneagram workshop next week. It's a great spiritual tool with an amazing teacher. 2 hours on the next 2 Saturdays. Please check it out. I think it will be worth your while. And now if you join me, please, in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am that light. The love of God enfolds us. I am that love. The power of God protects us. I am that power. The presence of God watches over us. I am that presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Beloveds, go in power, go in peace.
Yeah. Oh, good.